Welcome to the Big Dawg Crypto Podcast. This is your number one crypto podcast to hear directly from the movers and shakers, innovators, and disruptors in the cryptocurrency industry. Follow on Twitter for updates and to communicate directly at Woof Big Dawg. That's at Woof Big DAWG. Now, here is your host, the one and only Big Dawg Crypto.
And welcome to the latest episode of the Big Dawg Crypto Podcast. I'm your host, Big Dawg Crypto. This next guest I have followed for quite a while. He's been in the industry for quite a while, and very happy to have him on. Neil Jacobs, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
And I appreciate it. So we're catching up right now. We're at the middle of March. The markets have started to get a bit more interesting. What are your thoughts? Let me just get right out the gate. When you look at Bitcoin right now, what are your thoughts about what you're seeing in the whole market?
When I think about Bitcoin, I think that it's a fool's errand to try to time this market. I when Bitcoin was at, 17,000 back in November, I was around a lot of Bitcoiners that they were calling for 12,000, some calling under 10,000. And that stuff could still happen. I don't know. But what's more important to me is the long-term vision I have for Bitcoin. And that's to become the world's one and only money, a global money. So to get caught up in the month to month or even a couple of years here and there, it's not what I do. And, this latest, I didn't hear any Bitcoiners a few months ago talking about bank failures, right? Or bank runs. So you never know what's going to happen in the world. There's too many variables. So I just buy Bitcoin and hold it.
That's the best way. That's the best way. Speaking of, when you look at Bitcoin now and you've been in the space, like I said, a while, I want to kind of get into your history in here, but there's no doubt that you're seeing it become so much better known, right? So much more accepted, and the legitimacy of it. Right now it's like it's people feel more comfortable in Bitcoin than the banks. In our industry, they always did, but really, watch with the bank failures and this and that, and it really highlights why Bitcoin is so necessary and why it matters. You've been in the space a while. What year around do you remember when you first heard about Bitcoin and where you were?
Yeah, so it's kind of a complicated answer. So in 2013, I first bought Bitcoin. A friend of mine, I believe this is the story. I can't remember for sure. A friend of mine told me he was using it to buy drugs, Bitcoin. And I'm like, oh, what's this Bitcoin thing? I didn't think, I wasn't using it to buy drugs, but I was curious about it. So, back in September, I think of 2013 or August of 2013, I found Coinbase. I bought some Bitcoin. It was like $120 per Bitcoin. And it went up to like 1,200 that November. But when it tripled, I sold it because I didn't know what I had. And I had a very traditional finance mind at the time. And I'm like, oh, you're up 200%. You sell something, So I did that. I didn't really pay attention to Bitcoin again till like the end of 2015. I was concerned about the world just facing a lot of turmoil. So I'm like, oh, what's a good thing for that? And Bitcoin came back on my radar. So I started buying a little bit. But then I fell down the shitcoin rabbit hole. Right. And I started thinking I was going to be the next amazing trader. And that did me way more harm than good. And by the end of 2017, early 2018, I'm like, I'm done with all this. No more trading. I still had a little bit of Bitcoin left. And I just didn't even look at it for over a year and a half. And at the end of 2019, I started looking at it again. And I'm like, oh my God, I missed something about Bitcoin. This is going to change the world. I started listening to podcasts, reading books about Bitcoin, and it just completely changed my worldview. And I started tweeting out a lot about it, and I got noticed by other people in the Bitcoin industry, and things kind of blossomed from there. So it's a long, winding road. I don't consider myself an OG or anything like that, or something, because just because I bought it Like it didn't mean anything.
Well, it's interesting you say that because to me that is an OG. But let me tell you why I say that, because this is, as it come up at 44 podcast. Okay. Very few people bought it before 2015. I'm going to say you're one of only 3 or 4 that did. And like you said, it was not for bad purposes. And I think a lot of people there back then didn't, right? They bought it because it was something just so new and you could see that it was something unique. But there's also a lot of people that bought it. And I think people now, right, that think, oh my gosh, I would have bought, if I could go back to 2013, I'd buy, tons. A lot of people bought it and lost it, right? Or sold it. Oh, it went up to $1. I'm getting out, So I think a lot of people don't think about that. I mean, it's fair to say, but no, that's interesting to me to know that you knew about it, right, for that long. There's no doubt. Your background, though, what were you before you got into crypto? What was your background?
So I'm my background's in accounting. I'm a CPA.
Okay.
I worked in New York City at a Big 4 public accounting firm, then at a private equity firm. I still do accounting, like tax work, full time. So I'm not full time Bitcoin.
Right.
You said, what did I do before I get into the crypto world? I don't do crypto. I'm a Bitcoin only person.
Okay.
I just like to make the distinction because I really don't understand the value proposition of a lot of everything else outside of Bitcoin. So I kind of stick to Bitcoin. But yeah, I still do accounting work, but I also have my toe in the Bitcoin space. Like I have a toe in the fiat world and a toe in the Bitcoin space still.
Right. Well, it's funny because I say crypto because I tend to refer to it as that. We know we have Bitcoin, right? Is the main one, and we have 20,000 plus, altcoins. And so it's interesting because like anything, you have people that are, like you said, Bitcoin is when it's not crypto, it's going to be Bitcoin. And so we're like, it's like on this program, I've never ever promoted any sort of alt. Like it's not about that. It's about crypto, Bitcoin, what the people in the space feel about it. But there's no doubt that there's a very strong feeling, especially amongst people that are, Bitcoin is the only one, and I totally get that. The fact is, I think anybody that is in the space realizes for adoption to happen, look at countries, right? Look at what's going on in different ones as far as starting to adopt it, right? That's what we want to see. It makes you wonder now when you look at, we're in 2023, so you're 10 years knowing about this. You're looking at the adoption now. What do you want to see with Bitcoin? When you look in the world, let's say in 5 years down the road, have you thought about that? And I'm sure you have the same, but it's really kind of a wide-ranging question. But you've watched so much stuff over the past 10 years, and I'm very interested in this because you've got that history here. In the next 5, because we've come so far, what would you want to see? What's 1 or 2 things?
I think things are moving at a good pace right now. Even in this bear market, I see a lot of Bitcoin companies still raising money, still working. You see a lot of stuff happening in Africa, in Nigeria, where it's kind of Bitcoin's a necessity for people, not just some speculative investment. Honestly, and this is going to kind of sound like a cop-out answer, but the Bitcoin price just needs to go up over time for a lot of reasons. Honestly, human greed is what brings most people to Bitcoin, especially the ones who don't need it.
Right.
So, and then they end up learning about it. They learn some hard lessons the same way I did. Also, just in terms of infrastructure, so like the Lightning Network, which is a second layer on top of Bitcoin for anyone that doesn't know that's listening. In order to facilitate payments globally, the price of Bitcoin has to go up because the size of the channels is kind of limited. So the value of each individual Satoshi the purchasing power needs to go up to be able to handle full, global commerce. And we're just not there yet. So I think it's more Lightning Network adoption, more things being built on the second and third layers. And yeah, I think, kind of what I learned is, and just in life in general, is it's on the path it's supposed to be on. All these crazy things that happen, the FTX is the Mt. Gox, the NFT craze, the Web3. Like, I think it's mostly almost all nonsense. I think it just all kind of had to happen this way. And that's just how I move forward and think about things.
But it's interesting when you talk about the price having to go up, and you mentioned adoption, which I Agree. That's the absolute key. You remember in 2017, end of 17, when Bitcoin crashed, right? It hit the high of 17,000, whatever it was, and it crashed down. And people in January of 18, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing, the worst investment in the world. And yet now we've been in the range we were all last year, and you see it coming back up on 30. It's amazing now, the lows, right? The higher lows that we've been forming. And I mean, that gets it. You want to go into, and once again, this is something I like to ask my guests this. I always say, if somebody asks me, you ask me this question, give me $5 and you can go buy a cup of coffee, because I'm just guessing. But do you want to guess the price up in the halving, let's say like around the halving time to a year after? Do you want to guess a high there, or do you like doing that?
I never really give predictions much.
Okay.
I think Bitcoin should be worth millions and millions of dollars today.
Right.
So the price now, whether it's like 27,000 or 45,000 or 15, to me, the market is wrong. Right. Like the average person just doesn't get this. I don't know. True. Like we didn't see these banking, like a lot of people didn't see what was going to happen in the banking system the last 10 days. And who knows what happens over the next 10 months with the banks. It could be an accelerant for Bitcoin. It could cause a liquidity crisis and hurt Bitcoin. I just wouldn't get into buying narratives like, oh, the Bitcoin, we have to wait till the halving to reach a new all-time high, or Bitcoin never goes below a previous all-time high. We saw that broken recently. I do think the halving matters. I'm on, like, for a long time, I didn't think that, but then I've kind of changed my tune because for two reasons. One, I think human psychology plays a huge role, and narratives do matter when it comes to the monetization of an asset. So I think that, people start talking about it. It'll be on the mainstream news that now the reward subsidy for mining is cut in half, and what has Bitcoin done in the past? And then it creates this like FOMO, right? But also the people who sell Bitcoin the most, outside of like people who trade like nonstop, are Bitcoin miners, right? They have to pay for their operations. Now the supply they're being rewarded with halves, so they have less Bitcoin they are dumping onto the market. Right. So I think that is a positive for Bitcoin's price going up. So I think we will see the Bitcoin price go up subsequent to the halving, but I also think it could start going on a tear before as well. So you're not going to really get a straight prediction. I entered like some like side like contest where someone told me, asked what do I think Bitcoin's going to be at the end of the year, and I just said like 36,360. I just threw out a random number, but there's no basis for that. Yeah, I do think I did at the beginning of the year think that Bitcoin would end significantly higher at the end of the year, and a lot of people were bearish, and I think so. We'll see if that happens. We're on pace for it, but it's only March, and we know how volatile this asset has been in terms of USD price.
Absolutely. And I was so surprised after FTX. I mean, we really only remember we were going up and the FTX situation happened, and we only dropped 20%, it was like 20.5% or so. I mean, it's really, I think years ago, right? We would have dropped 80%, 70%. I mean, it just seems like the people's views about it are changing. There's a lot more people holding, and there's a lot more people ready to buy as it drops. At least that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I don't think you have a much stronger level of conviction about Bitcoin amongst a much larger group of people. When Bitcoin, ran up to almost around 20,000 in 2017, and then that bubble kind of bursted. There were even Bitcoiners who weren't sure that this, but now I don't think most Bitcoiners think like this is here to stay for 100, 200, 1,000 years potentially. Right. So I think convictions levels have changed. I think the reason you didn't see a bigger collapse when the FTX thing happened, we already draw down like 70%. I think most of the people who don't have the strong hands and the conviction were exhausted out of the market already. And Bitcoiners who hodl and see the long-term value of Bitcoin saw it as a buying opportunity. So I think that's why you didn't see the bottom fall out even more.
I would agree with you on that. So let me ask, when you go to Twitter, and you're very active on crypto Twitter, on Twitter.
Bitcoin Twitter.
But Bitcoin, I'm sorry, and that's another thing because it's you have I always say crypto, and you have Bitcoin Twitter. I mean, Dorsey would always go Bitcoin Twitter.
I mean, my stuff might spill over into the crypto Twitter space. People might see it, and I don't.
It's I always say people that will dabble, and also, I mean, they're Bitcoin people too. I mean, we're all, we're really, I think, all in the same goal here. But when you go onto Bitcoin Twitter and you see Jim Cramer, what are your first thought when he says sell or buy?
I think that he's been a very good contraindicator. And, it's kind of silly. He's kind of silly. You could tell he's never really put in the work to really understand this asset, and probably a lot of other things he gives his opinions on. But I just from my understanding of Bitcoin and seeing what he says, it's basically gibberish, which is most of the mainstream takes. They're just echoing headlines and not really digging deep into Bitcoin.
But you're right about that. The thing is, at least if somebody that doesn't know anything about it and says sell, and that's ignorance, right? But I mean, if I recall, he bought some Ethereum or something. He made some money because it's like a year ago. I bought a farm off my I mean, he actually made money with it. So it's like, it makes it even worse. Like, you actually benefited from it, yet you can slam. But Jim Cramer or Peter Schiff, which one's a better counter indicator?
Probably Jim Cramer. With Peter Schiff, a lot of his thoughts about government and the banking system are like spot on.
I agree with you. I agree.
He just has either a blind spot for Bitcoin for some reason, an envy, or some sort of nefarious thing going on where he just won't come over to the Bitcoin side. One day everyone will be on the Bitcoin side, whether they like it or not. So, he might be the one buying Bitcoin at $1 million.
You know what? But what's funny, if you think about it, and you're right, is that, in Schiff, he accepts Bitcoin. Yes, I get through a provider, but he accepts Bitcoin on his website, and tweeting about it has increased his engagement and followers so much. So it's so funny because we joke about the two counter indicators, and they're both fantastic, right? Schiff and Cramer, they both benefited from it. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, you're slamming, like, they do like it. It's worked for them, but whatever. Look, it gets views, right?
I mean, there's a saying like everything's good for Bitcoin. So even the negative attention brings most people's. It has like that, the Streisand effect where you say, "Don't look at this," and then more people look at it.
At it, yeah. No, there's no doubt about that. Cafe Bitcoin, tell us about it.
So Cafe Bitcoin first started on Clubhouse early 2021, and so the company Swan Bitcoin reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you mind like starting these rooms and help just tell people about Bitcoin, any new questions?" There was a lot of excitement. So Clubhouse was kind of a big thing in 2021. It kind of lost a lot of its steam. We still do it every morning on Clubhouse, but it's also on Twitter, but I don't host it on Twitter. And it's like a Twitter Spaces every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. There's people from Swan Bitcoin who kind of host it, and they talk about Bitcoin, the news, and bring on guests. So that's kind of what that is. That was kind of like when I became more well-known, I guess you would say, in the Bitcoin space. That was kind of my start when I was really public facing.
Right. What are your thoughts on podcasts in general? I mean, I know you said you listen to them, you watch them and stuff. I mean, it's as far as content stuff, what are your thoughts on those?
I think it's great. I think in this day and age, though, it's hard to keep people's attention. People don't have like a 15-second attention span.
Right.
So you got to really have a good hook to bring people in. Unfortunately, like clickbait is a thing because it works. Okay. So, but I don't believe in doing false, clickbait. I still think you need to be like honest in what you're presenting.
Right. I agree with that too. And I've always told people, I said, look, I mean, if you're in the space and you're trying to learn about it, trying to learn about Bitcoin, trying to learn about any aspects of the space, watch podcasts, watch videos, go on Twitter, research online, and then verify, right? Because we all know there's some good content. Like I got it in 2000, early 17, and I look back now, like I cringe on some of the stuff I watched. Like it was just straight up shill stuff and all that. There was some good stuff, other videos, but people pushing agendas. I'm like, look, everybody's got something that they're supporting, whether they're pushing this or that, and sometimes they're literally supporting the space. So take as much as you can in, right, and then verify, and then verify again. You know what I mean? Because there is good content out there. You just have to sift through it. You know?
Yeah, I think if you first put in a lot of time into understanding Bitcoin, not a superficial understanding, like literally 100 hours, and that's a lot, right? That's like 2 full work weeks of just reading, consuming, listening to Bitcoin stuff. But once you do that, you should kind of realize why it's so important and why all the other stuff that you hear in the crypto space, like is just kind of going to come and go.
Well, like I said, everything puts together with it. So I was looking at on your site now. You have, I see you with wearing the shirt, the apparel. Yes. What is going on with that?
So a little over a year ago, someone in the Bitcoin space reached out to me and it's like, "Hey, Neil, I've been following you for a year or so. I own a merch and apparel company, but I want to do this for Bitcoin too. Do you want to be a part of it?" And we talked. I'm like, "Sure." So the name of our company is FOMO21. FOMO and 21 for 21 million Bitcoin. So FOMO21.com. It's a Bitcoin only merch and apparel site. We have t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, hats, whatever you want. And yeah, I have a lot of fun with it. It's actually probably my biggest passion right now in the space. Cool. Really what I get to do is bring memes into real life. I get to put Bitcoin memes into real life. Yeah. And, there is definitely amongst Bitcoiners, a lot of Bitcoiners like, "Oh, don't wear Bitcoin stuff because, for security reasons, you don't want to like tell people you have Bitcoin." But I just think, people need to be public about Bitcoin in order for it to spread. And, wearing shirts that trigger something in someone's mind. Like if you look at my shirt right now, you think, "Oh, it's a drink. Oh, wait a minute. That's nothing to do with Bitcoin." It's to get people's attention and then start a conversation. So I think it helps. And it's just really cool. Like I'll go to a meetup or a conference. I'll see people wearing my merch and I feel good about it. So I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, FOMO21.com.
Well, it's funny because I always ask my guests before every podcast, "Hey, look, I like to talk about certain things." And like I had asked you, I said, we talk about everything. You said, everything's fine. Nothing's off limits. And I asked you specifically because you hadn't asked me to bring this up, but I wanted to bring it up. So we talk about the merchandise and something like that. When I talk about creating content, and now this is different because I've never had anybody on that's done merchandise, but I've always said podcast, people can learn from that, right? YouTube, they can learn videos, merchandise. I would just say, go to yours, right? Or go somewhere, get some and give them to your friend. I mean, to get the word out. And that's the thing. Look, at the end of the day, our space, it's kind of weird because you say marketing. I mean, Bitcoin shouldn't need marketing, and it really doesn't. But look, the FTX thing, if you look at that, I had people that so going back to let's say 17 or 21, right? We all had friends coming out the woodwork or aunts, uncles. "Oh, what is this Bitcoin?" I got to tell you, as bad as FTX was and people lost money, and there's nothing cool or funny about that. But my God, I got to tell you, people that would have never talked about crypto, even with Bitcoin could have been $1 million, are like, "Oh yeah, FTX, the space." I mean, it really put it on the map, not in the best way, but now the media is, is coming around, some good, some bad. But you got to admit, I mean, I hate to say it, but getting the word out of what it is really the only way to get people that understand why it matters to actually get on board. I really feel like, because I feel like either you get it or you don't. And some people will never get it, and that's fine. But hopefully more and more realize. And so, yeah, I mean, wearing it.
No, people have come to me and they're like, "Yeah, I bought this shirt," and it always starts a conversation with people who don't understand Bitcoin, and that's great. It's ultimately I want to make money. It's a business venture, but I also like the positive things it can do for Bitcoin. I'm not. Look, if you are just starting in the Bitcoin space, don't buy a Bitcoin t-shirt. Buy Bitcoin. And stack. Like, don't go. I want you to get a comfortable allocation that you feel comfortable with Bitcoin before you buy some. Get
a few stats first.
I would never tell anyone get my t-shirt, don't buy Bitcoin. I'm not like that. For sure. I tell the same thing with people with conferences. Unless you have a specific reason for going, first accumulate Bitcoin, because the conferences are expensive, the travel, the hotel, everything. So first get Bitcoin, and then if you want to go to conferences because you want to maybe network and maybe get into the space, then I'd say, okay, do that. I don't know. Do you do? So I also promote the conferences. So I have like a promo code if anyone wants it. I don't know if you have one, so I don't want to say anything if you already.
You know what? I don't. I mean, I go to different conferences, get ready to go to a couple of them, but I don't. So feel free to do it, please.
Yeah. So no, if you use the promo code FOMO, FOMO, like FOMO21, but just FOMO, FOMO, for the Bitcoin conference coming up in Miami for BitBlock Boom. For specific Bitcoin, it'll get you discounts to all of them. It's 10% off for the first two, and then 20% off for Pacific Bitcoin. And then unconfiscatable in Las Vegas, FOMO 10 will get you 10% off. So I just love to spread the word. And also, because I'm on the show right now, I didn't even think about this. I'm going to create a special discount code for your listeners on my webs for FOMO21. So I'll do it right after. If they just use the promo code Big Dawg, BIGDAWG, they will get 15% off for the next month off anything off the site. I
like that. That's a first.
How about that?
Cool. I like that. Yeah. And yeah, remember it's DAWG. So we got it the right way. And as far as the conferences, I went to Bitcoin in Miami the past 2 years, had a great time. I agree with you that they are expensive to go to. But they are a good networking opportunity, no doubt about that. It's very interesting with crypto, Bitcoin Twitter, right? Is that you meet people in real life, and I look at like the people that I met, like from behind from being on Twitter, right, and then meeting them, and it's been pretty cool. But I think going to the conferences though, if you can swing one, makes a lot of sense. So the one in Miami, I mean, I think this is the last year, so Miami's going back to LA. I think could be wrong.
I don't think that's been an official thing.
Okay. All right.
But it's definitely this is the third year in Miami. It moved down here because of the pandemic, and Florida was more open than California. So I don't know if it's going to move back or be somewhere else. So it's something we'll see.
But Miami is a crypto scene. New York was always big. Miami has really taken off. A lot of crypto people have moved there. There's no doubt about that. I mean, it's really taken off a lot.
Yeah, there is a lot in Miami for sure.
Yeah. And I know the mayor's been very pro and all that. Although I saw he's talking about running for president, and I don't get into politics left or right, whatever. But wouldn't that be great? He gets in and makes Bitcoin legal.
With all due respect to the mayor of Miami, he was also shilling city coins like Miami coin, and that's down like, I don't know, 80-90%. And when he started with just Bitcoin, and that was good. And then, like I said, he was part of a grift, unfortunately.
He had a city getting into the altcoin business.
Yeah. Miami coin, they called it, and it's down like 90%. And
you know what? I gotta tell you, I said this the other day. I said, I don't really watch Netflix. I don't need Netflix specials. You have the whole Bitcoin space. You know what I mean? Like, you really just go on to Twitter, and it's better than anything.
Yeah, I don't watch much TV or movies anymore. There's plenty of entertainment on Bitcoin Twitter.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so a couple of personal things to kind of wrap it up.
Sure.
In your spare time, what do you like to do? I mean, you work a lot. I can see you nonstop, with your tweets, and I see you also with all the content you're putting out. What do you like to do when you're not in the space?
So something I picked up about 6-7 months ago, I played pickleball. Now, I don't know if you've heard of pickleball.
That's So Drew Brees from the Saints just bought a league or something.
Oh, really?
Learned it. Yeah, but I'd never heard it before that. And the quarterback for the Saints got one, is making it big. Yeah, I had no idea, but evidently pickleball's big.
Yeah, there's actually
leagues and stuff.
There's a lot of Bitcoin. I got into pickleball through a Bitcoin meetup. I was talking to a friend of mine there. I don't want to say his name in case he doesn't want me to say it publicly, but I met him at a Bitcoin meetup, and he helped me learn, and he'd been playing for 5 years. There's an article published on Bitcoin Magazine by him. Oh, now that I said that, his name's Hector, good guy.
Okay.
About the similarities between being a Bitcoiner and being a pickleballer. In fact, it's pretty well known that Michael Saylor has a pickleball court at his house. So,
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
And if you get on a plane, it's taking you somewhere for the weekend, what's a country or two that you'd go to in a heartbeat that you haven't been to?
I haven't traveled in a while. There's just so many. I'd love to go to like Colombia. I'd love to go to Southeast Asia. I've backpacked through Europe. I've been to Argentina, Canada, Mexico, a lot of different countries. But with the pandemic, didn't travel a lot.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm constantly traveling in the US for Bitcoin conferences, that it's hard to make time to kind of vacation a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense. And food-wise, what's your favorite food?
I feel like I'm on a date now. You know,
oh, you want to know? That was like another personal side, because we see this.
Oh no, I said anything. I did say anything's fair game. So, just don't ask for my number. What? So,
if you want to,
I've been on a very I changed my dieting about a year ago, where I don't do a lot of carbs anymore.
Right.
It's mostly protein, fat, fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. But I love pizza. I miss pizza a lot. So.
Nice.
What's your favorite food?
No one's ever asked me that before. Probably Italian. I love Italian. Love a good steak. Sushi. I'm pretty much try anything. But
I love everything, to be honest.
Yeah.
If it's on a plate, I like it.
Yeah. And something good. So, all right. So, people want to find you on Twitter. What is the best way to find you? What's the best way to connect? It's
just at Neil Jacobs, NeilJacobs. So that's the easiest way you could DM me on Twitter the same way you did. I try to, I get so many DMs. So if I don't respond, it's not anything personal. That in between all the spam DMs, I miss stuff. But I do try to read them all and respond to as many as I can. And it produces good things, like being able to talk to you. And honestly, the merch company happened because the guy I started with messaged me on Twitter. So you never know what could end up happening. So don't be, I would say, for anyone that has an idea, anyone that don't be afraid. What's the worst that happens? You don't get a response for somebody. Always try.
I would agree with you on that. Well, Neil, I appreciate taking the time. I always say the most important thing anybody has is their time. And you gave me your time today. I appreciate it. So thanks for being on.
That and Bitcoin are the only scarce things in this world, our time and Bitcoin.
True. I like that.
Sorry for interrupting you.
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate it. The latest episode of the Big Dawg Crypto Podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to the Big Dawg Crypto Podcast. Follow on Twitter at WoofBigDawg. Woof, Big DAWG. And run faster than the competition. Woof, woof.